Hello and welcome to BIS Talks. Each human resource to an organization is like a family member, which is why it is important for each organization to treat them as one. But what do you do when across the world, every 15 seconds, a worker dies from a work-related accident or disease? 153 people experience a work-related injury every 15 seconds. These represent an enormous burden for organizations and society as a whole, costing over 2.3 million deaths a year. Not to forget that more than 300 million non-fatal accidents also take place. These statistics are shocking. So, how does an organization safeguard their work family and take care of them in every way possible?
BIS adopted this international standard as ISO 45001-2018 to promote the health and safety of the employees at the workplace. Based on the process approach, PDCA principle, that is plan, do, check, act, and risk-based thinking, this standard can be implemented by organizations that aim to provide safe and healthy workplace to its employees. Although OHSMS can be implemented by any organization regardless of its type, size, and activities, it is greatly beneficial for organizations posing higher risk to human health and safety such as hospitals, healthcare industry, steel, paper, textile, and other manufacturing companies and construction industries.
The first and the foremost requirement is to determine the boundaries and the scope of the occupational health and safety management system in the organization. And two critical exercises to be undertaken for this are: one is identification of the needs and expectations of the stakeholders, and second is the internal and the external factors that may have an impact on the health and the safety of the workers. In simple terms, the organization now knows the scope of the work at hand. The next obvious question is, what could be the internal and the external factors which can affect the operation of the occupational health and safety management system of any organization? These factors will obviously vary from organization to organization, but for the sake of understanding, we can name a few common ones. Examples of internal factors are availability of infrastructure, personal protective equipment such as safety equipments, safety belts, shoes, fire extinguishers, etc. The availability of professionals with the required expertise, trained resources for operating fire hydrants, extinguishers, etc. Mechanisms in place for safety control, skill upgradation systems, etc. A few of the examples of external factors are changes in legal requirements, suppliers of machinery and equipments, contractors' requirements, installation of equipments and machineries, work permits, etc.
Let us understand this clause.
Having identified the needs and expectations of relevant stakeholders, next critical aspect of planning is articulation of quality policy for the organization. The standard accords equal weight to vertical and horizontal communication of the policy in order to gain the support of functionaries at all levels. As a result, the top management is expected to ensure both of these types of communication. An example of the policy can be given as: we at XYZ company are committed to provide safe and healthy workplace to our employees engaged in manufacturing, including contractors, subcontractors. We intend to prevent any work-related injury, ill health by eliminating hazards and implementing reasonable controls to reduce OHS risk. We commit to engage workers' unions for through consultation and participation of. In this endeavor, we commit to fulfilling all the legals and other requirements. We will actively pursue every improving health and safety through programs that enable each employee to do their job right in a safe and healthy workplace.
Consultation and participation of workers.
To be effective, any safety and health program needs the meaningful participation of workers and their representatives. Workers have much to gain from a successful program and the most to lose if program fails. They also often know the most about potential hazards associated with their jobs. Successful programs tap into this knowledge base. Workers' participation means that workers are involved in establishing, operating, evaluating and improving the safety and health program. All the workers at a work site should participate, including those employed by the contractors, subcontractors and temporary staffing agencies. For effective implementation of OHSMS, all the workers are encouraged to participate in programs and feel comfortable providing the inputs and reporting safety and health concerns, have access to information they need to participate effectively in the program, have opportunities to participate in all phases of program design and implementation, do not experience retaliation when they raise safety and health concerns, report injuries, illnesses and hazards, participate in the program or exercise safety and health rights.
The implementation of ISO 45001 is dependent on the tried and tested PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. The new ISO 45001 standard requires organizations to establish methods to monitor, measure and analyze performance of the OHS management system.
The fundamental step of implementation of occupational health and safety management system is the identification and analysis of health and the safety hazards that may be present in the workplace. ISO 45001-2018 emphasizes on the risk assessment, weaving risk throughout the standard. Measures taken must address concerns that may lead to long-term health issues, absence from the work as well as possible accidents. It is important to understand what the risk analysis involves and what information it will provide. Typically, the risk analysis process starts with the preparation of process flow diagram to describe the activities and steps. It follows with the initial reviews and completion of checklist to identify hazards that may be present in your workplaces. It continues with the risk management matrix worksheet that takes you through a series of information gathering actions designed to assist in deciding whether or not a hazard or a process step is at a risk and conclude with the taking appropriate corrective actions. There is no single methodology for the hazard identification and risk assessment that is suitable for all the organizations. Hazard identification and the risk assessment methodologies vary greatly across industries, ranging from simple assessment to complex numerical methods with extensive documentation. Individual hazards might require that different methods be used. Example, an assessment of long-term exposure to hazardous substances might need a different method from that taken for the equipment safety or for assessing an office workstation. Each organization should choose the method that is appropriate to its scope, nature and size. The chosen approach should result in a comprehensive methodology for the ongoing evaluation of the organization's risk. Hazard identification should aim to determine proactively all the sources, situations or acts or a combination of these arising from an organization's activities with the potential for harm in terms of injury or ill health. Example include sources, example moving machinery, radiation or energy sources. Situations, example working in confined spaces, working at height. Acts, example manual handling, wearing PPE. Hazard identification should consider the different type of hazards in the workplace including physical, example slips, trips and falls, entanglement, noise, vibration, harmful energy sources. Chemical, example inhalation, contact with or ingestion of chemicals. Biological, example contact with allergens or pathogens such as bacteria or viruses. Psychological, example threat of physical violence, bullying or intimidation. The organization in its planning process shall determine and assess the risk and the opportunities that are relevant to intended outcomes of the OHS management system associated with the changes in the organization, its processes and the OHS management system. In the case of planned changes, permanent or temporary, this assessment shall be undertaken before the change is implemented. The organization shall maintain documented information on risk and opportunities, the processes and the actions needed to determine and address its risk and opportunities to the extent necessary to have confidence that they are carried out as planned.
In our Ramco Cements Limited Kolakhat grinding unit, we have formed a core group giving representation to all departments and sections. We have trained them in hazard identification and risk assessment. We have identified all operational tasks done by our employees and contract staff, which included routine and non-routine activities. While conducting HIRA, we have used a hazard prompt as a checklist to guide the core group members not to miss any hazards. We have covered all broad categories of hazards in the prompt like physical, chemical, biological and psychosocial hazards. Hazards encountered while performing each process steps or tasks were identified. As a result of the hazard identification and risk assessment, activities like work at height, work at confined spaces, electrical maintenance in HT lines, equipments, dusty work environment, working in conveyors, bucket elevators, screw conveyors, working in high noise areas, silo decoating and cleaning, working in hot air generator, which were known to be possessing medium to high risk. We have introduced lock out, tag out, that is LOTO, and stringent line clearance procedures and work permit system. For each of these significant hazards, measures to mitigate the effects of that risk are determined. Considering and applying hierarchy of risk control, we have given high priority for hazard elimination, substitution and engineering controls. As a part of administrative controls, we have ensured that our control action result in robust documentation in terms of safe work procedures, that is SWPs, relating to each activity, giving in detail what needs to be done, the order in which the task will be carried out, what plant or equipment is required, who will do the task, who will supervise the task, the precautions which must be taken before the task is undertaken, what to do if things go wrong. We have displayed hazards warning signage prominently at the places where hazardous situation prevails or hazardous work activity is performed to warn the people. In accordance with ISO 45000 clause 5.4, to promote consultation and participation, we have constituted a safety committee giving adequate representation to contract workmen. The committee meets once in every month, wherein safety concerns highlighted by field personnel are taken up for the corrective action. We ensure regular toolbox talks are conducted and safety experience sharing takes place continually. By implementing ISO 45001, we have achieved a lot of benefits. Benefits like prevention of injury and ill health to people, that is our employees and contractual employees, developing and implementing an OHS policy and OHS objectives, establishing a systematic process which considered its context and which take into account its risks and opportunities and its legal requirements and other requirements, determining the hazards and OHS risk associated with the activities, establishing operational control to manage its OHS risk and its legal requirements and other requirements, increasing awareness in OHS risks, evaluating its OHS performance and seeking to improve it through take appropriate actions, ensuring workers take an active role in OHS matters by effective consultation and participation. In combination, these measures will ensure that an organization's reputation as a safe place to work will be promoted and can have much more direct benefits, such as improving its ability to respond to regulatory compliance issues, reducing overall costs and incidents, reducing downtime and the cost of disruption of operations, and enhance business continuity, improved emergency preparedness and response by conducting periodical mock drills and improving the response mechanisms based on results of mock drills and learning from actual emergencies, reducing the cost of insurance premiums, improving morale as well as reducing absenteeism and employee turnover rates. Recognition for having achieved an international benchmark, which may in turn enhance the confidence among other interested parties such as customers who are concerned about the OHS status of their suppliers and other parties.
OH&S objectives are established at relevant functions and the levels to maintain the management system and to achieve continual improvement in OH&S performance. These measurable steps toward achieving your OH&S policy are either determined as you create your OH-SMS or in your management reviews. You need to ask yourself, what will you do to meet the goals stated in the OHS policy? Knowing that perfection is impossible, you must have some acceptable tolerance defined and measured. Some of the examples of OHS objectives may include reduce injury frequency by 20% at site within 1 year, reduce emissions of fumes by 15% at site within 1 year, decrease number of hazards incidents by 10% at site within 1 year.
We must also remember that the success of daily new initiative or management system is dependent on the amount and quality of the support it receives within the organization. Next, clause 7 looks at the requirements which underpin the OH&S management system to ensure it runs effectively.
The support clause of standard requires that the organization identify and provide adequate resources for establishing, implementing, maintaining and continually improving the management system. And surely, it is the responsibility of the organization to determine the necessary competence of workers that affect or can affect its occupational health and safety performances. Organization need to ensure that the workers are competent on the basis of appropriate education, training or experience, and this competence must include the ability to identify hazards at their workplace. Now you may ask us what is to be done by the organization. The example of imparting competence may include the provision of training, mentoring, reassignment of the currently employed persons, and by hiring or contracting the competent persons. Another important aspect in this clause is workers' awareness. Awareness is the fuel that will allow this standard to operate smoothly. The workers shall be made aware of all OHSMS policies and objectives and understand their contribution in the success of the OHSMS system. Now comes the communication section. To ensure the effectiveness of OHSMS, healthy and proper communication is essential. The standard requires to establish and document the processes for internal and external communication of the information regarding the occupational health and safety management system. This standard also requires that the occupational health and safety management system and all information required by the standard be documented and suitably controlled. Similarly, changes or updates to document should be identified, traceable and reviewed on periodic basis.
These were the supports required in order to implement the actions determined in the planning phase, but is it enough to implement these actions or something else is also required?
Emergency preparedness and response. An organization is required to identify foreseeable emergencies applicable to its operations and plan its response. Such emergencies can occur both during and beyond normal working hours and can arise due to both natural and man-made causes. Identified emergencies need to be assessed based on their OH&S risk. Focus is on proactive control measures such as the reduction of ignition sources and not only on reactive risk controls such as firefighting, equipment and evacuation. The organization shall plan, implement and maintain the processes needed to prepare for and respond to potential emergency situations identified during the risk assessment analysis. The organization itself can evaluate its performance against the set of parameters as defined in the organization occupational health and safety policy and objectives. For this, the organization has to monitor, measure, analyze, evaluate and conduct internal audit and management reviews. Things need to be monitored and measured. The extent to which legal requirements and other requirements are fulfilled, its activities and operations related to identified hazards, risks and opportunities. Progress towards achievement of the organization's OH&S objectives, effectiveness of operational and other controls, and the other things as identified and decided by the organization that the organization feel is important to be monitored and measured for effective implementation of the management system. In addition to this, organization is also required to determine the frequency of the monitoring, measurement, evaluation and communication of the result of the reviews. The organization shall also conduct internal audits and management reviews at the planned intervals.
After completing the check part, here comes the act part of the PDCA cycle.
Whenever an incident or a non-conformity occur, the organization shall react in a timely manner to the incident or the non-conformity and, as applicable, either take action to control and correct it or deal with the consequences. The organization shall evaluate the need for corrective action to eliminate the root causes of the incident or non-conformity in order that it does not recur or occur elsewhere.
Your organization can get ISO 45001 certified by the BIS in easy steps.
Organization desirous of obtaining system certification as per any management system standard has to do the following. Pre-application stage preparedness. Understand the requirement of the standard, implement the standard and prepare documents as required by the standard. Conduct training program for the employees to develop a shared understanding of the tasks to be performed. lay down the objectives, norms, and measure progress against them, establish policy, identify risks and opportunities, institutionalize internal audit and management review. Application to BIS. Application can be submitted online through the MSCD portal on BIS website. During application, identify the regional offices under whose jurisdiction premises is located and contact the concerned management system coordinating officer. MSUR will guide you about the process of application and extend necessary support in the certification process. On acceptance of application, dates for the stage 1 audit is communicated along with the details of the auditor and fee to be submitted. Stage 1 audit is the occasion to verify the authenticity and adequacy of the information shared by the organization, reading its preparedness through verification of documents, field visit and discussion with the team and top management. Instances of non-conformity are communicated for corrective action within the mutually agreed time frame. On successful completion of stage 1 audit, stage 2 audit is planned for final verification of the compliance with the requirements of the standard. In case there is some corrective action still required to be taken, 45 days time is given to the organization to do that. On successful completion of the stage 2 audit, license is granted, which has validity for 3 years.
As you already understand that BIS grants the license for 3 years. Now during the 3 years period, BIS undertakes 2 surveillance audits to ensure that the organization has stayed compliant to the requirements of the standard. I urge you to come forward and implement ISO 45001, that is Occupational Health Safety Management System, because not only it will increase your productivity but also it will save life, and as you know, each life is precious as each life has a purpose. BIS, with its vast experience and strong team of professionals, will always be by your side in this wonderful journey.
Bureau of Indian Standards, that is BIS, is the national standards body of India and represents the country in the International Forum on Standardization, including International Organization for Standardization, that is ISO, and International Electrotechnical Commission, that is IEC. This standard is designed to prevent work-related injuries and ill health. This also provides safe and healthy workplace for one and all. Now, if you do implement the ISO 45001, then congratulations. Jai Hind.